Computer. Hello and a cordial welcome to the Center of Excellence for Meditation. My name is Yashoda from blissunion.com. The Center of Excellence for Meditation is founded by Yoga Vidya. And today I have the great honor to speak to Dr. Evie. Dr. Evie, very nice that you are here. Welcome. Thanks for your time and for your presence. And
Thank you. Thank you.
And would you like to introduce yourself to the audience with 2 or 3 sentences, who you are and what you do?
Thank you so much, Yashoda. I'm very happy and honored to be here with you. My name is Dr. Evelyne Leone. I practice functional medicine in the United States. It's a form of medicine that is new, where we look more at preventing disease than, really addressing disease with softer methods than just medication and surgery. Also, I combine spirituality and medicine, hence the reason why I'm here today, because I studied yoga, I do meditation every day, and I see the rewards of it, and I brought it into my practice and with great results.
This is, it makes my heart jump of joy, to be honest. And to jump right into the topic, how did yoga and meditation come into your life? Did you first want to become a doctor, or like, how was basically your biography, and when did these paths cross each other? That would be really interesting to come to know.
Well, it's a lifelong story with meditation. I started early. I discovered yoga when I was 15. So I was born in France. And at that time, I just happened to come across a yoga teacher. So I started some yoga and then I drifted away from it, but I kept the meditation with me. And it's only when I was much later on, when I moved to America, I discovered Buddhism. So I had a good 10-year journey into Buddhism and followed the teachings of Dalai Lama, and we were meditating along the way. So that was my first experience. Then I went back to yoga and started really practicing yoga almost every day. And since then, it's been a part of my life. I just naturally wake up every morning, have a long meditation, and try to have some at night too. Knowing that, maintaining the inside balance is essential for health. And for me, health, of course, is meditation, is my motivation number one, because I'm a doctor. So I'm looking to create health for my patients. And so it starts with being the model of health, right?
Yes.
And so I just know what an equilibrium it has brought to my life to just meditate every day. And I just practice that. And of course, I put it into my practice with my patients also.
I'm really curious, like, what your practice does look like, because you just said you have a long or longer meditation in the morning, and how, like, what your practice does look like, really in detail, because I think it's very inspiring to hear each person's, like, how they do it, because then you can see how can I translate it into my life. And also, how did your meditation practice like change over the period, if you have a longer period of practice? And you just mentioned Buddhism, so you had another practice. So, but also from the formalities, like, like, when do you do it? How do you do it? Like, what does it look like?
So I wake up before the sunrise. That's essential. That's when I think, the world is asleep and you have the most connection. I mean, we know that the hours between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m. are the best times for meditation. Along the years, of course, my practice has evolved. It's such a great question you're asking me, because truly I made it my own. When I started with Buddhism, it was just sitting and having a mantra and then contemplation. When I merged the yoga with it, I started incorporating some breathing and some movements. So before I do have at least an hour and a half every morning. So it's a long meditation, but also combined with some breathing. So I do some breath work just to prepare the body and the mind and to wake it up somehow. And then some mantras, and many mantras actually, and sitting in meditation, and then contemplation at the end. And yeah, I think that's the movements that I practice. If I do a sun salutation in the morning, that's the extent of it. But mostly breathing, which, different breath work. It can be intense retention of the breath in inhalation and exhalation, which I found out are both very important because, well, first of all, I believe a lot in breath work because it brings so much health to the body. It moves the energies, it circulates the blood flow, helps detoxifying, it flushes the mind. Sometimes the mind is, especially when people are starting meditation, it's so hard to sit. And so breathing helps. It's kind of a bridge into meditation. And doing some intense breath work sometimes is needed because we're so active in this life. And that just flushes all the thoughts away. So I really do that, and I believe in it. And that's how I teach my patients also. First, especially for those who have not meditated yet, and they tell me, I try meditation, I can't sit still. That's what I do. I give them the breath work, and that's the bridge. Then they can sit quietly and start the meditation. So it's kind of an entry.
Yeah, you've been hitting an interesting point because, like, in the yogic world, you might know it as well, Brahma Muhurta sadhana is called, like the 90 minutes before sunrise. Where at sunset and sunrise, it's said that the world is more in equilibrium than at midnight or at lunchtime, like just from the day and the night vibrations. And also, I also practice at this time because it is the easiest entry, and it is also said that it is the most effective time for meditation. Like you get deeper faster. And also what you say, starting with the pranayama is a very good entry for a deeper meditation level. Like what's the ratio for you between, like, from the times, how long do you do the pranayama and how long is the meditation in comparison?
So definitely meditation is longer than pranayama. I'd say it's probably 20 minutes of pranayama, and then the rest is meditation for about an hour. Between singing mantras and contemplation is like 15, 20 minutes.
When you say contemplation, and the other time is mantra repetition?
Yes.
Wow.
So,
and this is the practice you kept over all those years?
I changed the mantras because the Buddhist mantras were different, and then I have a mix of mantras that I particularly love from some teachers that I use. I can send you a list later, and they also work with the breath actually. Because the way it's done, the rhythm is really well studied to make the body relax, and you inhale and then you sing the mantra in the exhalation process. And that helps you sustaining the exhalation. So there's a whole breathing pattern to the mantras also.
That sounds like a super interesting science. I mean, we're using in yoga, we're using mantras as well. We have this very simple, I mean, I have a guru mantra, which is way longer, but like just this soham, which sort of imitates the sound of the breath. Like first you say it and then you say it mentally, and then you basically hear it when you listen to your breathing, but extending the exhalation, and or like if you go with the mantra and it enables you to have the break where you're not breathing, the Kevala Kumbhaka, between the inhale and the exhale and the inhale, is, funny enough, in my life is a difficulty. Even though I practiced so much, I'm really bad in holding it, and it resonates with me very well. That if you have a mantra where the mind goes along with, like in a soft way, that you can expand it. Like this is not part, at least not what I've seen in my 30 years with Shivananda, what is really taught within Shivananda. So it's a very interesting component. I don't know if you basically said the main things about it, but I'm still curious.
Well, there's the whole, I always try to see the science behind things.
Yeah.
And there's actually a whole science with the fact that we need to hold our breath in exhalation and empty our lungs. See, the lungs have a residual capacity.
Yeah.
That means that when we breathe superficially, and that's what happens mostly now today, people are just breathing chest breathers and very superficial. They don't take a deep exhalation. So they don't really empty all the air in their lungs. And figuratively, if you think about it, you inhale some air, but you still have old air in you. So the old you is still here hanging in. Where you completely exhale, you exhale completely and you leave room for a whole new breath. A new air that's coming into your lungs. So I think that process is very healing and regenerative. But it's harder to hold the breath in exhalation. And there's actually, so I work with some medical practices here, and we have a new machine that is testing people in their ability to depress, to continue sustaining their system with low oxygen. So it's brought in a way very slowly, as we do when we are exhaling completely. We have barely, the oxygen is not here. So the oxygen levels are lowering in the blood. And we create that artificially with a machine now to help people regenerating. And it's supposed to be good for our health. So see how so many secrets in the yogic practices that are applying to medicine today.
Yeah. I mean, that is something I always loved about the yogic tradition. I mean, there's other wisdom traditions like shamanism or something, but the yogis, they use the tool themselves, the body, the breath, the mind. There is no ayahuasca or whatever peyote, which might be means of transport for other realms or whatever. But for me, it has some purity and elegance, the trust that I can do this with God, what God has given me. I think that for me, that's very, very sexy in a way. That's very, very appealing. And I mean, there's very many descriptions about what yoga is, but one which I resonate with many, but one which comes to my mind is yoga explains everything about the subconscious, the conscious, and the superconscious. And from my over 30-year-long explorations into the yogic field, the little I know, I would agree with all my heart. Like, because wherever I've been exploring or going or searching or researching, there was already a yogic wisdom, practice, explanation, and everything. So it's really very, very, very profound. I mean, as they say, like it's a received knowledge from the rishis. It's nothing which we made up. It's received from the higher realms. Like this intense practice, which is a total blessing, and certainly in at least in yogic perspective, with a blessing from karmic imprints have the capacity to come across these practices and to have the stamina and the breath to do them in an uninterrupted way over the years. How, I mean, obviously with what you do, but like, how would you describe, have these practices influenced your life? What would you, yeah, tremendously.
Completely, because I really believe we create from the inside, and those are the practices that bring you inside. Yeah, I can see clearly that my life journey was completely dictated by it. You know, when I was, so just to give you a little bit of history, I went to medical school late in life. I was the oldest student in the room. I was the oldest resident, and I chose a very intense program, probably the most intense in the US. And I don't know if you're aware of what they're doing. It's, you don't sleep at night for, we have shifts of 36 hours. And at that time, I really needed to amp my meditation, but I had very few hours.
Yeah.
So I learned how to contract this into the most efficient way so I could have the energy for this. So it was always changing the meditation according to my life, because I couldn't do as much yoga as I wanted to do, as my body needed. But I knew how to extract the ones that were so important. And I think if we just, you know, when we study, if we just listen to our body, we can find those answers. And that's what I encourage my patients to do. I encourage them to come into their body so they can actually see for themselves with their own mind eyes what's happening. Because yes, as you say, yoga has all the answers. It's all there. It's creating a balance within ourselves that is unshakable.
Yeah.
And yoga can do that.
I mean, what you just said, like in the beginning, before we were recording the talk, I was mentioning a program with Shivananda, the Sadhana Intensive, and we do a lot of advanced breathing techniques, and you sit alone in the forest, which is very nice in Canada, and you apply the pandas. And I remember in one time after this program, which really gives you divine insights. I mean, each time I took it, it was unavoidable. And one time I was completely, I don't know, it was totally obvious to me that the pandas are your innermost doctor, because with all these practices and applying the pandas and simple food and all this, like I could feel everything inside, like how it is connected, which tension goes from where to where, which organ is there, and and with the practices, you basically you pull on your strings and you release them and you harmonize them, and it comes so from inside and translates itself into your outer layers, like the body, or like I was really, I mean, it was so obvious to me. Maybe it sounds a little bit weird, but as you say, you can feel this, you can feel it so from inside if you go deep into the practice, which is basically a little bit hard, because what we often, yoga teachers, what we say is that if you live in a city, you do something like yo-yo yoga. You know, once a week you go to the yoga class, and then you go out, you decompress, then you go out, you get attention, and then you decompress, and you remain at a very same, there is progress, but it takes very long. Whereas when you intensify the practice, and that's what I'm hearing from you, that in a way, when you were talking, I felt like your innermost being somehow was married to the practice. You never skipped it. You didn't say, hey, I'm a doctor, sorry, I have new priorities. No, you think, okay, how do I extract? How do I, you never gave it up. Like nobody could take the practice away from you. That's, congratulations. Congratulations. And when you said you were like the oldest in the program, so the wish or the idea of becoming a doctor, how did this come into your life? Like, it was not since you are a little girl or whatever. How did that happen?
Interestingly, it happened to me in Germany. When I was studying in Düsseldorf, I did an exchange program for a year, and I was there with in a Studentheim, you know, and there were some young doctors there who were going to school, and I was fascinated by what they were talking about. So I when I was a little girl, I already, you know, liked the human body. I was always looking into anatomy books, but then, you know, I went for something else, and they took me to med school with them to observe a surgery, and I was, oh, I really want to do this. And then I went to graduation, and amazingly, there was an older woman who was graduating there, and I said this day, I was looking at her, I said, you know, I missed my chance to go to med school, but later in life, I will do it like her. And I did it years later. So it was with me. Yes, it was.
And did you already then have the longing or the wish or the idea to sort of unite consciousness practices, spiritual practices, to apply them in the healing field? Or was this in the beginning separate?
It was separate in the beginning. When I really started, I just had this impulse to help. I wanted to help people. I really felt like health was a priority in life,
Yeah.
and that, and also, yeah, I was really interested in medicine, but I didn't put two and two together. It's only when I went to the training in the hospital that I saw how much we could prevent,
Yeah.
and how we were just, you know, forcing medications and surgeries where we could have stopped that had they known what I knew, what I had done with my own body all these years with meditation and yoga. So I was actually in neurology, and I quit the field of neurology to do that, to do functional medicine where I could express this, because that was the only specialty which is, you know, so it's recognized now much more. When I started, it was not recognized, which was more accepting of those holistic practices.
Yeah.
So that's why I went there.
Yeah, and in Germany, it's still rare. When you talk about functional medicine, most of the people don't know what it is. We have now a few functional doctors, young ones, like, so it's quite, it's in Germany, it's quite, you could say it's quite fresh. So like, so your wish of becoming a doctor was not a result of your spiritual practices or your meditation practice. So tell me more, like how apart from that it changed everything in your life, like what would you attribute to your practice? What do you see in your life, what you attribute to your spiritual practice and to your meditations?
Everything.
I totally understand you.
I really feel that we are manifesting from inside out. So life happens, right? Like the movie of life happens, but it's really us, our life journey, the lessons we learn from this movie that is playing there, and how much we can stay connected. Because so it becomes so sensitive, and I'm sure you're experiencing that. At some point it becomes so sensitive that when we disconnect for a second, because either we have an event that calls us out, something sad or something shocking, something stressful, we disconnect from our source.
Yeah.
Right away we see the manifestation of it. Life becomes more difficult, and we don't feel good in our body. It affects our health. So it becomes more and more sensitive. That's why I say it's everything, because if I'm connected, then, you know, things are happening for in an easier flow, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, because like there's then no fear, or there's no place for anxiety, stress. You are in sync with the universe, and the moment you lose it, you fall into all the emotions of hope and desperation and stress and anxiety and fear and jealousy and whatever is there what we basically don't want to have. And once you are connected, you don't abandon yourself. you don't feel abandoned, and you feel whole. And as long as you feel whole, nothing is missing. So yeah, I totally understand. In the long run of your meditation practice, did you experience some, like I mentioned in the beginning, like some deeper meditation experience, insight experiences, which sort of impressed you deeply, apart from what we take every day and continuously out of the practice? And would you be open to share it? Like, because
Yes,
sometimes these things are very private.
yes, of course. Well, it's and it's true that meditation, my meditation, and I'm sure it's true for you too. It's not the same every day, not the same experience. There is a common denominator with, you know, feeling elevated and feeling like at peace.
Yeah.
But sometimes, yes, I did experience some visions and some uh, the sense of oneness with the rest of the universe and all beings is stronger at some moments, depending where I am, you know. Also, because the group, if I meditate with a group of people, it makes a difference too. And I think there's a collective consciousness that's happening here where we're sharing some things. So yes, I did have some very deep experiences and visitations, and that may that could sound crazy, but the meditative experience can be interesting.
Yeah, for me, they have been very stabilizing, concerning, I mean, not I've seen, but probably everybody, or young people, hopefully not, but have to face that some people die in your life. And I always, when I was younger, I had the feeling like I am a coward concerning this. Like, my mom was always strong and said she's not afraid, and she has not been. She was like full straight. And I was like, I'm not as strong as my mom. And but the experiences I perceived, or I felt, or whatever, that were given to me, introduced me to a state which definitely has been levels above my ordinary, and even within my ordinary, the exalted states included in my ordinary life, way above that. And that that ensures me that there is something more, something beautiful more. And it reduces the, if you only, I mean, you could say as a yogi, come on, you should when after some decades finally have gotten it, that you don't identify with the body. But we live in this world where it's so ingrained in our culture that, yeah, as a yogi, you know much more, but still, when you swim in the soup, you somehow take the taste. But these experiences definitely yeah, connected me more to my own inner being. And you just right now, you mentioned group meditation, so you didn't only but you didn't only have your own private practice, so you are also practicing in group. Is this with your patients, or like, how is that?
No, when I used to live in California. I mean, I'm still between the two coasts, and I joined a lot of yoga groups there where we were meditating, and so that's what I'm talking about. I have a particular group that was very powerful there, and sometimes 100 people in the same room meditating together. You know,
Yeah.
it creates some energy.
Yeah, a lot. Like at Yoga Vidya, I think in the meditation hall, they can fit in something like 800 or 900 people, or if it's squeezed, it's 1,000 people. And it has something when you meditate together. like if someone comes to you, or like you advise one of your patients and say, you should meditate, or like, what kind of tips would you give to someone who says, hey, I'm impressed, that sounds great, I need something like this, how do I do it, what do I have to take care of, like what would be your tips for meditation?
Yeah, to come, it's so I explained to them, you have to address gradually meditation where you're at now, because if I've never meditated, it's hard to start, especially later in at a later age. So I usually give them the tips. They tell me, I want to feel peaceful. That's the main thing. People suffer anxiety today, more than anything else. And that's where I want to stop them, because I explain to them, this is what's going to lead you to disease. This is what's going to create disease in your body. It's that anxiety. So we need to get rid of that. And the main thing is, I don't have time to meditate. I hear that all the time. I've made some little programs here and there. And just recently, actually, I put out a little meditation that's really a gradual introduction to let go of the thinking process. So it uses some very simple breathing and then a little bit of a guided meditation. But it has to be short and concise for them to do it at first. So I'm aware of that, and I try to fit something in their schedule. And I do these little programs, so breathing programs, meditation, and eventually I'd like to do it myself to have some, it was not possible during the pandemic, but now I think to have some real live groups of people that I can help do body scans with, guiding
Yeah.
them into their body. And they don't need any anatomy knowledge or anything, because I guide them to see what's happening, the processes that are happening in their bodies. That's very calming. And that's a good way to enter meditation. And because, there's a dissociation between the mind and the body all day long. People
Yeah.
are in their minds and they completely forget their bodies. And
Yeah.
it's bringing back that connection. So when they move around, they flow with the body. They don't leave the body behind, the
Yeah.
mind and the body are completely connected. So
Yeah.
those plans are helpful for that.
Yeah. And the mind is not like 2 meters ahead from the body, like what is very, very much, yeah, I see this quite often as well. Um, I'm really super curious, like how you apply your spiritual practices and your wisdom and your experiences, which make your personality or your being, how you utilize it, use it, apply it in your professional practice. Due to time constraints, I would like to keep this interview short, but at the same time, I would like to extend an invitation for another talk where we talk about, like, I mean, you are the founder of the Institute of Conscious Health, which is like for us yogis, of course, a great thing. What your practice looks like, what you do with your patients, how your personal practice translates into your work with your patients. And yeah, would you be open for another talk with us?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. We can
This is
continue. Be happy to.
absolutely wonderful. So at this point, unless is there anything I should have asked and I haven't asked, or anything you would like to add to our conversation, Dr. Evie, then this is the time now.
I think you've been wonderful. You've asked such interesting questions, and I think it builds into more consciousness, and I really like this interaction. Thank you.
Me, absolutely too. So I say thank you for everybody who is listening. Thank you to you, dear Dr. Evie, for your time, for sharing like your personal practice. And as you guys know, we are doing this, that you are inspired to meditate. The world, especially now, needs more peace. And as we all probably know by now, there is no outside peace without inside peace. So it starts with you. And if we all want peace, we should start with our own practices. And this should be an inspiration for you. And I'm totally looking forward to our next talk. Dr. Evie. And with this, I say Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you for listening and see you next time with Dr. Evie. Thanks and goodbye.